Hello my friends, Flaum here for Archer and Olive. You are in my studio. We are packing up for a trip. Actually, I wish I was packing up for a trip. What we are doing today is talking about my process for when I am going on the road, what craft supplies get to come, what notebooks, what journaling things, what do I bring when I'm out there? And I'll tell you the answer, it depends. Every single situation is different. If I'm gonna be going on a retreat and there's gonna be lots of hours with no Wi-Fi and lots of time sitting around, I'm gonna bring more supplies. On the flip side, if I'm the driver and there's gonna be tons of driving and nonstop adventures all day long and I'm exhausted, maybe just a little bit of supplies just in case I get a few minutes. It depends. There's no wrong answer, and every one of us is gonna be different. And isn't that a wonderful thing? So let's dive in.
The first thing I do is make some notes. These could be written as I'm doing here. They could be verbal, but I'm asking myself, what kind of trip is this? Is this a trip I want to document? Am I going to have lots of time? And what are my goals, or what is my vision for how would I use notebooks? How would I be journaling during this trip? This doesn't have to be a long process. Sometimes it's only 1 or 2 minutes. The point of this is asking myself, what is it that I am envisioning? Why is a notebook? Why are some journaling supplies important to bring? Now, I always have a notebook of some sort when I'm going anywhere, even if I'm just going out for the day. What this process really does for me is help me determine what kind of things I'm looking at based on my answers. And there's, again, not a right, not a wrong. It's just about looking at time, availability, what kind of purpose do I have, and what makes the most sense to bring along. Once I have that, then it's gather time. So then I will know, okay, I should be bringing my square or my traveler notebook size or whatever size it is, or whichever journal I'm working with, new or existing, that makes the most sense. Then, of course, on to the really fun part. If I need adhesive, of course, my Archer and Olive pens or washi tape, stickers, all of that kind of stuff. If I'm going to need any of this, it's definitely going into some kind of container to keep it organized while I travel. And I'm going to really be thinking about if I want a rainbow of colors, if I want a color palette, if it makes sense to bring a whole bunch of pens, or if this is going to be a simpler or a smaller pack, then maybe it doesn't make sense to bring all of the things. But you know what? Again, this is going to be custom to each person, right? So depending on how you create, depending on what kinds of colors you like to use, maybe you're already working within a color palette. It depends on the time you'll have, the space you have. Maybe you're going on a plane trip and you're carrying on only, so you can only bring 3 pens. The challenge here is to bring things that you'll actually use, and for me to not be an overpacker. When I overpack, it tends to annoy me to lug extra stuff around. So spending a little bit of time on this can really help. Now, what kinds of journaling do I do, or what kinds do you do when you're out and about? One key thing that I will do is make notes about the trip. Things we did, where we ate, funny inside stories, that kind of thing. And I do this in just a general notebook for me to have little bits and pieces of my day, of my trip, to later turn into a more formal scrapbook or memory keeping project in like a more formalized storytelling kind of way versus just jotting down notes. So this is something I do, and this is something you're seeing me do here, where I might just be making notes for my future self about scrapbooking or about memory keeping or about, oh, these were things on the trip. And the thing I love about this is if I don't get to that memory keeping project for months or years, I've got the notes. Another thing I'll do is just play with stickers and with papers and with different things and just create kind of like artful journal entries. And maybe I'll bring some more pens like we saw before. Maybe I'll be doing more art journaling. Maybe I'll bring one of my Archer and Olive kits along and be creating with that. This is another really fun thing that I can do, either just setting up future journal page spreads or filling things in. Maybe it's about my dreams. Maybe it's about my goals. Maybe I'm really just reflecting. That's something I'll do a lot, either art journaling or reflecting on things that I want, goals that I want to set, things that I want to achieve. And a lot of times in travel, I have the time and space to do just that. And in this case, a color palette is really a great thing. Supplies that are color coordinated that I can work with and really get a lot out of without having to pack a ton. That's almost always, when it's me on the road, that's almost always something I'm thinking about. How can I get more out of this with less? Now, another thing that I like to do is doodle. We talked about pens. Pens are a great supply. I may be doodling and making art in my art journal. I might be adding mixed media to it by painting and pens and stickers and stamping. It just is a fun thing for me to let out my creative spirit, test new things. And when we're working in a journal that's designated as my art journal, there aren't rules here as to what it can be or what it can't be. We can go in any direction. We can try anything. There's no cohesive nature. There's no only this in my art journals. My art journals are a hodgepodge of all kinds of styles, and that makes them really appealing to me when I'm traveling. Do I sometimes, take a page or two and just write words and write thoughts? Absolutely. But a lot of times this gives me kind of a space away from all the supplies to work with a limited amount of supplies and see what I come up with and just kickstart creativity. Sometimes I also do a formal travel journal where I'm putting ephemera, memorabilia, and such into the journal. Sometimes I just write down notes or thoughts or kind of self-therapy, talk to myself about issues. And sometimes it's a mix of all of the above. I love traveling with supplies.
I don't have any vacations in my immediate future, but that's okay. A girl can dream, and it never hurts for me to be thinking about that next trip and what my notebook setup, what my journaling habits are going to be, what am I going to be getting into, and what's going to bring me the most joy, because that is what it's all about, right? I know for me, my notebooks bring me such joy. There's so many different ways I process, from art to documenting to memory keeping. It just depends. And I hope you found this video helpful. Be sure to subscribe to Archer and Olive. Be sure to check out the blog below for even more and a printable. And of course, leave us a comment. What works for you? What is your process? Because I know I am always trying to improve and update how I pack or how I decide things. I'd love to hear from you. So do share, and if you post on social media, be sure to tag us. I'll see you next time.